Hey, it's Ruth and welcome to Pocket of Inspiration, where we create better versions of ourselves. Now, domestic violence. It is nothing new to us. We see it in the newspaper, in the community, and even in our families. And one of the questions that is often asked, why don't you just leave? Well, today our guest will be answering that question among others. We'll talk about what are the exit strategies, what is available to the abuser. Mr. Will Campbell is the founder and manager of Solutions Training Consultancy and Counseling Services. He is a psychologist, professional counselor, and a lecturer at the University of Guyana. He has a desire to help humanity and is passionate about transforming the life of others. So, well, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Ruth.
Okay, great. So the last time we really connected was when I had an education program and you were a speaker there. And that time was really informative, what you shared. And I really must say again, thank you for what you shared at that presentation.
You're very welcome.
Great. So now when it comes to domestic violence, domestic abuse, women are often in the forefront speaking out against domestic violence. And I must say it's very admirable to see men who also decide to join the conversation and also speak out against domestic violence. My question to you is, when and why did you decide to become an advocate against domestic violence?
Okay. I was living abroad and I would keep abreast with the news. Every day I would go online and I noticed that it seemed to me like it was every day there would be some news of some woman being killed by her husband or being seriously harmed by her husband. And I thought that somebody needed to do something about it. And so I made arrangements to come home on vacation and go around to churches and so on and do training programs. And more recently, there seems to have been like an upsurge. Sometime within the past month or two, we've had maybe 3 or 4 women losing their lives or almost losing their lives to domestic abuse. Mm-hmm. And I thought that I needed to step my game up and become more involved in this fight against domestic violence.
A lot of women out there might be faced with domestic violence, or someone might know somebody is in domestic violence, like being affected by domestic violence. Can you share with us what are the known to you, the resources that are available to help both the abuser and also the victim of abuse? Because both of them are faced with circumstances, difficulties, mm-hmm. and might not know how to deal with on both ends, how to deal with it. So what are the resources available, like probably counseling, or what is available?
All right. To begin with, the available resources locally are rather limited, but there are resources. Mm-hmm. And there is the Red Thread, there is Help and Shelter, there is the Ministry of Social Protection, Gender Affairs Unit. There's also a domestic violence unit at the Ministry of Social Protection. And so women who are experiencing, women or men who are experiencing domestic violence could call these agencies and receive help. There are also a few private practitioners around who would be able to offer help, but of course those are paid services. And men in particular, there is the men's desk in the Gender Affairs Unit where men who are abused or abusive could get help for themselves, because we sometimes forget that the abuser is also someone who needs help. Mm-hmm. You know, abusers don't go around looking for people to abuse, really. They have issues and they act it out. Those issues manifest themselves in abuse and violence. So those persons also need to seek help.
Okay, great. So up till today, I heard an instance of domestic violence, someone being killed this morning. And we, or the persons from the outside, might be looking in, or even know somebody's being abused, and we wonder, why can't they just leave, right? So what do you think are the reasons why women actually stay in abusive, and even men, why they stay in this abusive relationship, and what are the different things that they can do to really leave? Because it's not easy, because if it was, people would leave already.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So what is your response to that?
Yes. You're right. If it were as easy as just picking up yourself and leaving, most women who actually stay would not. And the issues are complex, and the list of reasons is very long, but I can outline some of the reasons. And I think probably the most important reason is that women, there is a, not every woman would accept abuse in the first place.
Yeah.
And there is a profile. Generally, women who end up in abusive relationships are women who, in the first place, don't value themselves. All right? They want to, but something might have happened in their past that caused them to think less of themselves. And so they don't feel that they deserve better sometimes, and so they stay. Another important reason why a lot of women stay is because, or men, is because they're afraid of what would happen if they leave. It is a known fact that the danger increases if you're leaving, or if you leave. And so a lot of women don't want to deal with that, and so they stay. Then there are other reasons. There's the issue of prestige. You know, you might have had a beautiful wedding, and you know, everybody looks up to your family. And if it becomes known that this is what happens to you, you have to deal with the fallout of that, and wondering if people would judge you, and all of that. You know, and this I find to especially affect people of faith who might be in a church or whatever, and they hold prominent positions, and they don't want people to think that, you know, this scourge, this negative thing is happening in my family. Sometimes women want to protect the men because they're still these people are still in love with each other. They still love each other. And so sometimes you want to protect your partner, and so you stay. You don't want to take this to the police. You don't want people to know, and so you know, and people stay for those reasons. Then there's there are economic issues as well. It is clear that when a couple separates, generally the woman fares worse economically than the man. And she does not want to leave because she's thinking, you know, who's going to take care of me? Who's going to take care of the children? Where will I live? And all of that. And so those are just the tip of the iceberg with regard to reasons why people, women in particular, stay in abusive relationships.
Okay, great. So for women who might be in one of those situations you mentioned, what will the general advice? Probably you could like make it more specific, but what are some advice to her or even him? Should they first seek counseling to try to fix the problem, probably with a husband, or if it reached a particular state where it's life-threatening, how can she really get out of it? Like, what would you advise her?
My advice for any woman who finds herself in a violent relationship is leave. Separate yourself from that. Separate yourself physically from that relationship. Find somewhere else to go. Because even while couples are in counseling, very often the abuse continues, and abuse only escalates. It does not get better without some kind of external input. It does not get better. So if you're a woman in a relationship and you're being abused, you need to leave. He is not going to get better. It is going to get worse. And it escalates until somebody loses their life or a limb, and someone ends up in jail. So it is, you know, bottom line, get out of there. Then again, that is not as easy as it seems. You see, during the course of an abusive relationship, what abusers typically do is they would isolate their victims from their friends and family. So I don't want you talking to anybody who I think will make you feel strong. So I cause you to fall out with your parents, your siblings, your friends. I cut you off. And so an important thing for someone in an abusive relationship to do would be to establish relationships, establish and maintain relationships with a support group. Because if you're going to leave, you're going to need somewhere to stay. You probably need some financial assistance. And if you don't have any friends and you don't talk to your sister and you have an estranged relationship with your mom and your dad, then where will you turn? So you need to establish relationships so that there is a soft place for you to fall until you can get back on your feet.
Okay, can we deal a bit with the financial aspect now? How can a woman really empower herself financially? What can she start to do to get out of the relationship? Because she might not have nobody at all. She feels she's all by herself. And the man is the sole provider. She has kids. She probably don't have so much qualifications and so on. How will she really, what steps can she take to get out? Even if it might not happen right away. You know what, I'll plan like next 2 months. I don't know if that's possible. Next 2 months, I want to leave. But in the meanwhile, I need to set these things in order. What can she put in place? What system can she put in place to start getting out?
No, the scenario you described is a very challenging one indeed, because I mean, if I don't have any skills, I'm not highly educated, I don't have a job, then earning finances to take care of myself and my children would be a real challenge. In the meantime, there are agencies that would provide some measure of support. I mean, you know, it might not be gourmet meals, but the Ministry of Social Protection, for example, provides some kind of financial support to tide you through that rough period. Another thing that I encourage women to do is learn a skill. There are agencies in pretty much every region that focus on empowering women financially, and so they teach you a skill. Sometimes some of them actually provide grants that would help you start a little business so that you can take care of yourself. So women should identify such programs, enroll in these programs, learn to do something so that you can take care of yourself. And I want to appeal to families in particular. If there is someone in your family who's being abused, provide support for that person, because abuse weakens that person psychologically, and so they're not quote-unquote thinking straight in the first place. So provide support for that person. Let that person know that there is help and that you are willing to help. Because at the end of the day, the money that you're saving can't bring that person back if it goes wrong. So families need to provide support and help these women get on their feet.
Okay, great. So you talk about families, and when it comes to bringing up children, it's a very serious responsibility.
Absolutely.
How can parents intentionally train their children, both male and female, to be loving and respectful partners in the future? Because like in certain instances, the environment might not be so loving, or probably in the home, but what they see outside and their neighbors, probably they're hearing the screams of abuse and all of that. How can a parent intentionally train that child to be loving and a non-abuser when they get into the relationship?
Okay, that's an entire seminar, but I can try and summarize as much as I could. I think that the best thing that parents can do for their children to raise them to be nonviolent in their own relationships is to model proper conflict resolution. So when they see mom and dad having disagreements but not coming to blows, not abusing each other, not cursing each other out, that is what they learn. And it is the single most powerful lesson children can learn. It's from the example of their parents. So there's the example. The other thing is that parents need to talk to their children about these things so that your sons and your daughters know that it is not okay to be abusive. It is not okay to fight. And boys should be raised to understand that under no circumstances is it okay to hit a woman. I was fortunate in that I learned that lesson from my parents. I mean, I have 3 sisters, And as annoying as they were when we were growing up, I was never allowed to hit them. I never got away with hitting my sisters. I learned very early that it was not okay to hit a woman. And so these are lessons that we can teach our children intentionally, you know, don't assume that they are going to know. So you model the behaviors, you talk to them about it, and another very important thing is that we teach them to value themselves. Teach them to value themselves, because when you value yourself, respect for other people becomes automatic. And so, and the other thing is, if you value yourself, you won't allow anybody to abuse you, because you feel that you're worth much more than this. And so those are some of the, I think, in a nutshell, what parents can teach their children so that they don't fall into the trap of being abused or abusive.
Okay, great. So let's take a step back. I would like to address the young women even before they get into a relationship. Because oftentimes females get in a relationship for different reasons. Number one, like, the guy likes me, so let me try. Let me see if I get into this relationship, how things will go. Or they might be just trying to try this dating, right? What mindset or focus should a young lady have when thinking about stepping into a relationship? Because oftentimes their minds are not really, you know, like some of them get head over heels over the guy really quickly with infatuation, and they miss the signs. They don't really see the bad side of the guy, really. People might tell them, you know what, this guy is not good for you, and they will not even see that. So even like before you even get into a relationship, or you are in one, what should you keep in mind? What should you focus on the guy? Like, what should you looking for in the guy to really pick up the signs? You know what, this guy might not be the right guy for me, and he could possibly be a potential abuser.
All right. No, it is almost impossible, probably impossible, to look at a guy up front and determine he's abusive or he's not. In fact, many abusers, probably most abusers, are very charming. They have like two personalities. So everyone likes them. They're good with people. They get along well. Everyone looks up to them. Very often that is the case. But that is a facade that they have as they cover up something deep inside. And most abusers are not bad people necessarily. You see, and that is where a lot of people get fooled. You think that this is going to be a bad person, and so I'm going to see it at the beginning. It's not a bad person. It's someone who has a deficiency in their personalities, in their conflict resolution skills, in their communication skills, in their ability to control their impulses. And so if you give a relationship time and you know what you're looking for, you will be able to identify the red flags. And I'm going to list a few of them if I can. First of all, jealousy. A lot of people think that if I'm not jealous, then I don't really love. But jealousy is a red flag. And if you're with a guy and he gets upset every time you talk to another guy, that is a potential abuser. Another thing is guys who have rigid gender roles are more likely to be abusive than guys who are not. For example, those who think that women should not work, or a woman should always be the one to cook. The woman must always take care of the children, and man must do man things, and women should not talk back to men and that kind of thing. Those men are, that is a big red flag. Men with rigid gender roles are more likely to be abusive than men who aren't. Then you look at the way he treats other people. Look at the way he deals with other women in his life, for example. And pay careful attention to how he deals with his anger. Because, I mean, if I'm in love with you, I will not, at least at the beginning, show you my anger. But then someone cuts across me, and you are observing, and you watch at how I deal with that person, and you realize that when it's just the two of us, and when this gets a little stale, I will turn that anger towards you. So watch the way he deals with his anger. Watch how he treats people whom he perceives to be inferior to him, of lower status. Maybe how he treats animals. All of those are signals of someone who is abusive. If he is controlling, you know, those guys who want to know where you are every minute of the day, you know, and they will tell you, you know, I'm just looking out for you, I just want to make sure that you are safe. But if every 5 minutes I have to be calling to find out where you are, and I'm upset if you move from point A to point B and you didn't check in with me first, then that is a signal that this guy is going to be controlling. And he's going to want you to tell him, he's going to want to tell you who to talk to, where to go, when, how you should dress, and all of those things. And the challenge with that is that a lot of women interpret that as him being concerned about her, and they feel so nice about it. You know, he's checking in on me. He didn't want me to wear that outfit because, you know, he's concerned about me. If he's controlling, then he's an abuser. So there are some things that you can see, not necessarily on the first date, but you need to, and here's another thing that I advise women to do: date in different circumstances. Don't just do the dinners and the movies, because it's easy for a man to be romantic and charming and nice on those things. Go to other things, you know. Go to places where he will have to interact with other people and watch those interactions. And by the way, some women think that it is okay to create a condition, make him angry to see how he will respond. That's not advisable, you know. Don't do that deliberately.
Another thing too is that women should try, actually, probably you're past the dating stage and you seem more interested in the guy. You should also make it knowledgeable to the parents also, because a lot of females keep their relationship really secretive keep that information from their parents, and that's
another people in their lives.
Yeah.
Yes, it is important that a man knows that you got people, because abusers generally are cowards. An abuser will not abuse someone if he feels he can get away with it. All right, so it is important that your circle knows who you're with, and so that they can provide support if things get hairy. So you're correct.
Okay, so before our last question, I must thank you for everything you've shared. I'm quite sure you will have helped someone who's listening to this.
I sincerely hope so.
Yes, and for those who would like to get in contact with you, where can they reach you? Because I understand you do training and different
Yes,
things.
I do training, I do domestic violence seminars, I do parenting seminars, relationship seminars, management training, lots of other things. If someone wants to get in contact with me, my number is 655-7800.
Okay, great. So, last question. What do you think is the single most important core value for creating the best version of yourself?
It's interesting that in that question you use the word value. I think that you cannot be the best version of yourself until you learn to value yourself.
I love that.
Understand that you were created for a purpose, and it is that purpose that gives you value. Your value doesn't come from who your boyfriend is or your girlfriend is. It doesn't come from what you achieve in life or what kind of clothes you wear. You were created to be valuable. And once you understand that, you're going to be your best self.
Okay, great. So I want to thank you all for watching. If you found value in what was shared, please give the video a thumbs up, and to share it to someone, it just might help someone. So please share this video. So I want to thank you all for watching. Remember, this was Pocket of Inspiration. Stay true to yourself, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.